Hi, and welcome to Lesson 6, Patterns and Sequences. Today's goals are for you to, by the end of this video, to be able to say, I can find the pattern in a sequence of numbers. We're going to learn a lot of different vocabulary words and, most importantly, find patterns and be able to name them. All right. You'll want to have your notes handy, and today actually having a calculator by your side might be really, really helpful. If you don't have a calculator, having your multiplication tables might be really helpful to you. Let's go ahead and get started. So do you remember what a pattern is? Remember the picture patterns? Well, a pattern is any group of objects or numbers that follow a rule. So we see the pattern with the red circles. And what we're doing is adding on one centerpiece and one to each end each time. So the pattern is growing. Or you see the pattern with the round circles that look like we're making bowling alley pins all set up. Or it could be making a pattern with numbers. Whatever we do, there's going to be a rule. So when I talk pattern, remember, I'm talking about finding a rule. In your notes, you can see that I have a pattern started. 1, 4, 6, 16, 64. So if we were going to look for that pattern, what am I doing each time I go to a different number in that pattern? This is where your calculator can be helpful. I'm going from 1 up to 4. I could be adding 3, but if I do 4 and add 3, I'm not going to get 16. So I don't think I'm adding. So let's try multiplying. 1 times 4 does equal 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Now I'm seeing a pattern. 16 times 4 is 64. And I need to get my calculator out to figure out the next one. So I tapped it into my calculator and I've got 64 times 4, 256. And if I want to find the next number in that pattern, I will do 256 times 4, which is 1,024. And I could continue on my pattern that way. Well, what's a sequence? A sequence, and let's look at the definition. You have it there in your notes. A sequence is an ordered set of numbers that follows a rule. So the numbers in the pattern are what we call the sequence, and the pattern is the rule. So we have a sequence of 1, 2, 3. The rule is +1, or the pattern is +1. On your notes, you have this one, 20, 25, 30, 35. That's the sequence. The pattern is +5 because I continually add 5. All right, so patterns and sequences. Now there's two kinds of sequences, and we're going to talk about those two kinds of sequences. One is an arithmetic sequence. So that kind of a sequence, an arithmetic sequence, is a sequence created by adding or subtracting. So we can add or subtract. And I have that word subtracting already in your notes. Adding or subtracting the same number repeatedly. So let's look at 5 goes down to 7. That's my sequence. So what's my pattern? 5. If I add 2, I'm going to get 7. If I add 2 to 7, I get 9. If I add 2 to 9, I get 11. So that's my sequence. The next number, add 2, is going to be 13. Add 2, it's going to be 15. Now, let's look at one more sequence, and you have this one in your notes. You try it. If we started in -3, and the next number in the sequence is a 2, what have we done? We've gone from -3, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've moved ahead 5. -3, this was a -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. The pattern is to add 5. Let's see if that holds true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To go from 2 to 7, I added 5. And from 7 up to 12, I added 5. The common difference, or the common number that I need to add, is plus 5. And that is the difference between each of those two numbers, plus 5. Let's look at a geometric sequence. A geometric sequence, you can see it, and it's maybe a really good idea to underline it in your notes. Multiplying or dividing the same number repeatedly. We go from 1 up to 3, 3 up to 9. We are multiplying by 3 each time. The number 3 is multiplied to each term to create this sequence. The 3 here is called the common ratio, and that's the next word we're going to be using. You can see it in the notes. Each term. The term, and you've got that definition down on your sheet, is each number in a list of numbers, or each number in a sequence. So the 1 is a term, the 3 is a term, 9 is a term, 27 is a term. It's just a fancy way of saying each number in the sequence. Right, one more example, and it's there on your notes page for you to figure out. If we have 3 and go up to 6, 6 up to 12, and I've given you a number line, so let's see. 3 to 6, we're adding 3. 6 to 12, we're not adding 3, we're adding 6. What's the rule in this sequence? It's not, doesn't look like it's to be adding, but let's try 3 times 2, that is 6. 6 times 2 is 12, and now I can see what my sequence is. My pattern is times 2. All right, the common ratio, multiply by 2, or times 2. And in the rule, I would just write the symbol for times, the multiplication, the times sign, 2. All right, important note for you as we go under the term, it's good to know that when the sequence increases or goes up, try to find an addition or multiplication pattern. When the sequence goes down, try to find a pattern using subtraction or division. So put a box around that in your notes. Make sure you think about that. When a pattern or a sequence goes up, try to find a pattern using addition and multiplication. And important to know also, remember, the rule or the pattern must repeat 3 times, or make sure it repeats. It might only repeat twice, but if you can repeat that pattern 3 times, you know it is a pattern. You know that rule is truly the pattern. So let's look at some more examples, and we'll practice finding the pattern. Let's look at number 1. We go from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. How do we go from 3 to 4? Add 1, 4 to 5, add 1, 5 to 6, add 1. If we kept that pattern going, what's the next number? That's right. If we kept that pattern going, the next number. So go ahead and continue that pattern out for 3 more terms. Plus 1 to 8, or add 1 to 8, we're going to have 9. Good job. Now let's look at number 2. From 10 down to 9, down to 8, we're decreasing, and what I'm going to remember is that when a sequence goes down, I'm going to look at subtraction or division. So let's look at subtraction. 10 down to 9 is minus 1. 9 down to 8, yep, minus 1. So it looks like my pattern is to subtract 1 from each term, and I'll have the next term. Number 3, make sure you're taking these notes on your paper. If you have to pause, please do. All right, number 3, 1 to 3. It's going up, and what I'm going to remember is when the sequence goes up, I'm going to try to find a pattern using addition or multiplication. So let's look at that pattern one more